In the name of Allah, Bismillah,
Hold on,
Alhamdulillah. Oh,
hold
I
on.
thought we were live.
Yeah, sorry. Bismillah, go on.
Bismillah, Alhamdulillah, Salatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. We start in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, and may He send and shower peace and salutations upon the Prophet Muhammad and upon his family and companions. I welcome you all this evening to tonight's lecture, and it's in the absence of our esteemed Sheikh Muhammad al-Maliki, who I believe he's not very well at the moment. So we ask Allah Azza wa Jalla, Allah the Most High, to give him a quick, full, complete and speedy recovery. And please do remember him in your du'as. And it doesn't feel quite the same this evening without him. Abdul Hakim was keen not to cancel and to keep the lesson on. So at short notice, I'll be taking tonight's lesson, and it will be an introductory lesson to the branch of knowledge of what's called in Arabic Aqidah, A-Q-E-E-D-A, and that's the Islamic belief. And what we're going to take it from, the introduction to a tremendous book. And it's the introduction of an explanation of a very short book. It's the book of Imam Ibn Taymiyyah, and that is it's the explanation of the belief, what's called Al-Aqidatul Wasatiyah, A-L-A-Q-E-E-D-A, Al-Aqidah, T-U-L, Tul Wasatiyah, W-A-S-A-T-I-Y-A-H. And we'll explain what this means in just a moment. But first, I'd like to introduce the explainer. And the explainer was one of the amazing scholars of these times. He was a scholar of jurisprudence. He was a scholar of explanation of the Quran. He was a scholar of language, and he was an example in modern times of piety and righteousness. And he was the sheikh, the scholar of fiqh, the alim, the scholar, the bona fide scholar of Islam, Muhammad ibn Salih al-Uthaymin. And he died about 23 years ago over there in Saudi Arabia. He was from Unayzah, U-N-A-Y-Z-A-H. And the sheikh, he had, without going into too much detail, because we could actually go into his biography, but he had an amazing way in his teaching. He taught many books of language, of belief, of explanation of the Quran, or he explained the Quran, using his knowledge of books of explanation of Quran. He has a very famous explanation of a key text in jurisprudence, and it's what's called Ash-Sharh al-Mumti', or the great explanation. And it's a book of jurisprudence, and it's a really long book, and it's based on his lectures. And the key thing, or one of the key highlights as relates to the sheikh and his works, is the accessibility, whereby he would make it very easy to understand quite difficult concepts. He used to have a lesson on Imam Nawawi's book, Gardens of the Righteous. He had an explanation of this after the Asr prayer, and they used to say that it was an explanation that the scholars would attend, the general people would attend, the students of knowledge would attend, and all would find benefit in those sittings. So that's the rank and the station of this scholar. And now the book, the short treatise that he wrote this as an introduction to, is the belief of the people of a place called Wasat. W-A-S-A-T. And it was written by Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, who was a scholar who died in the year 728 after, or in the Islamic calendar. And it was a book that he wrote, a small book, after he was asked by the people of the town of Wasit about the belief of the people of the Sunnah, about the belief of the people of the pure Islamic belief. So he wrote this book as an answer to their question. And he wrote it, it's a short book, but the explanation and the meanings behind it are quite extensive. So we find that the scholars of Islam, from them, Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen, they've taken the time out to explain the concepts of this book and explain what this book is about, and go into quite a lot of detail about it. And in his explanation, or before his explanation of this book, there were a number of key principles that Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen, he wanted to highlight. And those key principles serve as a kind of introduction to the studying of the branch of knowledge of the Islamic faith, or the branch of knowledge, as we would call in Arabic, Aqidah, A-Q-E-E-D-A. So this is what we're going to take today. And it's basically the foreword of the printed edition, the explanation of Al-Aqidah al-Wasatiyya, or the belief of the people of Wasit. So I say, after seeking Allah's guidance and help and aid, it's a short book and a treatise that shows us that the belief of all of the prophets and the message of all of the prophets, from the first who were sent to the people, being Noah, to the last who was sent to the people, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was one faith and one religion. And all of them, the essence of that religion was that they called to the oneness of Allah the Most High. And this is as Allah the Most High said, that which means, and indeed, we sent not before you any of the messengers, except that we revealed unto them that there is no deity worthy of worship except I, so worship me. And that's from the chapter of the Quran, the chapter of the Prophets, and it's verse number 25. And Allah the Most High also said, explaining this concept, and indeed, we sent a messenger to every nation, ordering the people to worship Allah and to avoid and leave off worshipping anything other than He. And that's in the chapter of the Bee, and that's verse number 36. And that's because the creation in their entirety, from the beginning of man to the end, they've been created for one purpose, and that is to worship Allah the Most High. So the messengers, they would call the people to worship Allah alone, so that their hearts would be connected to Allah and not other than Him, so that their hearts would glorify Allah, so that there would be a reverential fear of Allah, so that there would be a hope, a religious type of hope and devotion to Allah, so that they would rely upon Allah, so that they would desire Allah, and that they would have no sort of fear except through Him. And this was the essence of their religion. And they couldn't actualize this, or they couldn't always do it, or what helped them actualize it was the call of the prophets. And that enabled the people to be pure and to be upon the state in which Allah the Most High wanted them to be. So all of the prophets, they called their people, their respective people, to worship Allah and single Him out in all of these matters that we have mentioned. But not just single Him out, or as a part of singling Him out, also excluding anything else in worship other than He. And now the this essence or this worship of Allah alone, we can look at it as having three categories. So the first of these categories is, and these categories are called Tawheed, Tawheed. And this is a concept that's known through the scholars of Islam have extracted this concept from the texts of the book, the Quran and the Sunnah, the narrations of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, and they have extracted it in a kind of organic way from, and it's they're concepts that are contained within the texts that they've looked and studied at the text and pondered over them, and they've extracted that the texts can contain these three concepts, because Tawheed, or oneness of Allah, it has three categories. And the first of those is Tawheed, or the oneness. I'll translate Tawheed as oneness. So the oneness of Allah's lordship, and that's Tawheed, Tawheed, Ar-Rububiyyah, Arrububiyyah. So it's the oneness of Allah in his lordship. And this is singling Allah the Most High out in three matters. The first of those matters in his creating. So it means that we do not believe that there's any creator other than Allah the Most High. The second is that he is the owner, and he is the owner. So we believe that it is he who has complete ownership over the heavens and the earth, and also complete ownership over his slaves, those who worship him and those who do not. And the third of those is that Allah the Most High is the one, we believe that he is the only one who organizes the affairs. So the affairs of day and night, the affairs of the rain falling, and all of these universal affairs, they are of Allah's doing. So when we say that we believe in Allah's lordship, it means that we believe and we affirm these three things. And the evidence of this is the statement of Allah the Most High in the Quran, that which means, indeed, does he not have the creation, or does not the creation belong to him, and also the affair. And here the affair, it means the ruling of the book of the Quran, the ruling through which the people can rectify themselves, and through, or the legislation maybe is a better way to express it. Yeah, and here when Allah the Most High says, does not the creation and the legislation belong to him? This does not, the fact that Allah the Most High has asked this as a question, it shows that we should pay attention to it, and it also shows the emphasis upon it, i.e. there is emphasis that it is for him alone and not for other than him. So the creation and the creator is for him. And actually Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen, he explains the amr, or the affair, not as I just did, not just as I translated it, but he said it is the organization. So he explained those two pillars of this category. So the creation, does he not have the creation? And also, does he not control the affairs? Is not within his hand the affairs of the heavens and the earth. As for the ownership, then its evidence is the statement of Allah the Most High, and to Allah belongs the heavens and the earth, as is in Surah Al-Jathiyah, with verse number 27. And this shows that Allah the Most High, he alone has the dominion, he alone has ownership of the heavens and the earth, as we have mentioned previously. So as a summary, the Lord is the one who is or who has the special characteristic of being the sole creator, being the sole owner, and being the sole organizer or sustainer of the heavens and the earth. And there may be questions about this. So here we'll look at some of the questions that can be posed about this concept or these concepts that we've just taken. So firstly, in the Quran, there are verses in the Quran that affirm other creation, or that affirm creation to other than Allah the Most High. So how can we reconcile these verses with what we've just said? And an example of this is the statement of Allah in the chapter of the believers, verse number 14, where he says that which means, and blessed is Allah, the best of the creators. So here, there is an affirmation of creators other than Allah. How can we bring this together and understand this in light of what we've just said, and in light of the verse that we've said, that indeed to Allah belongs alone the creation? And also in some of the narrations of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, as has been narrated in the authority of the mother of the believers, Aisha, and collected by Bukhari and Muslim, that the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, yes, and it was about those who make pictures. He said, indeed, the people who made these pictures will be punished on the day of standing, on the last day, and it will be said to them, give life to that which you have created. So here in this narration, the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, affirmed, or within this statement, give life to that which you have created. It links creation to those who made those pictures, so to other than Allah. So the question is, how can we reconcile between these two seemingly contradictory concepts? And the answer is this, that creation is to bring something about from nothingness. This is the true essence of creation. There was nothing, and then something was created or made out of that. And this is what is specific to Allah the Most High. And this is when we talk about the creation being for him only, this is what we mean, and this is what we're referring to. As for making something or changing the state of something, or making something from things that pre-exist or already there, this isn't creation in its real sense, even if it can be named as creation in terms of almost like a concoction or mixing of things. However, as we've said, it's not a true creation. It's not true creating. And the example of this is that the carpenter can make a door out of wood. And in Arabic, and I suppose in English, you would say he makes it. In Arabic, you can say he created it. And you could say that in English as well. He's created a brilliant piece of art or something, or a magnificent door or something. But this isn't creation in its real sense, because this is, as we've said, it's making something out of existing raw materials that wasn't there before, or something that wasn't, or changing the state of raw materials from one thing to another. And the people, and even scientists, etc., no matter what level and what degree they, their knowledge and their expertise can reach, then they cannot make something. They cannot actually create anything from nothing, from nothingness. And this is as Allah the Most High himself said in the Quran, where he said in the chapter of the Hajj, and it's verse number 73 that I'm just looking for. He said that which means, and it's a challenge. It's a challenge to the people. And it's that which means, oh people. So again, it's a challenge to all people. It's not just the believers, it's all people, people who believe, people who disbelieve. men, women, people of expertise, people of non-expertise. So, O people, in its most general sense, an example has been presented to you, so listen to it. Indeed, those whom you invoke, who you call upon, besides Allah, will never create as much as a fly, even if they all gathered together for this purpose. And if the fly should steal from them a tiny thing, they could not recover it from him. Weak are the pursuer and the one who is pursued. So this shows us that that the people, no matter what they can or what degree they reach in terms of technology, in terms of knowledge, in terms of advancement, they will never be able to create something from nothing. And this is the challenge that Allah the Most High has put forward in front of them. And here, this is a grammatical point that the Sheikh is saying. So when Allah the Most High says, indeed those who you invoke, those who you call upon. Here, those, it's a general term, and it encompasses anything that is called upon other than Allah the Most High, whether it be a tree or a stone or a rock or an idol or a person or an angel or a prophet or anything. It encompasses all of those things. Out of all of those things that are called upon other than Allah, they will never create even a fly, even if they were to come together upon this common purpose. And this is the challenge that Allah the Most High has put forward in the Quran. And this challenge, it's a challenge not even to create a really intricate being. You know, this is a fly, something that, you know, when we see, it's a cause of annoyance. It's an insignificant animal or creature, insect, and it represents, you know, this. Although it's an incredible challenge from Allah the Most High, He has chosen an insignificant animal or an insignificant insect, and it shows the intricacy of His knowledge and His capability of creating, where He can create, or He has created all of these intricate things, yet mankind and people, they cannot create even the lowly fly. So in this way, Allah the Most High is the creator alone. There's another question as well, because we can say, similarly, as we've said with creation, how can we say that Allah the Most High is the sole owner, or in His hand is the dominion of the heavens and the earth, and He is the same owner, whereas we see that there is an affirmation of ownership for the creation. You know, as we see, Allah the Most High says, except in the chapter of the believers, except your wives or those whom your right hand possess. And the point of proof here is that Allah the Most High shows ownership or possession for the believers. And the answer to this is from two angles. The first of those angles is that the ownership of the individual of something is not a complete ownership. So the individual possesses that which they have, but they do not possess that which you have, that which I have. So their ownership is limited in this sense. However, the ownership of Allah the Most High is completer, more expansive, and it's general. The second way that we answer this is that the ownership that the individual has over something is not a complete ownership in the sense that the individual can use that thing however they want. Rather, they can use it only in the way that Allah the Most High has legislated it to be used. As for Allah the Most High, then He can make use of things however He wills and however He wishes to do so. And now moving on to the third point, and the third point is the arrangement of the heavens and the earth. And we can see that that people and mankind, humankind, they can arrange things, but it's quite clear to see that that arrangement is an arrangement that it falls short in terms of what Allah Azza wa Jal is able to arrange. So, for example, you know, Allah the Most High sustains the heavens and the earth, and He arranges the night to follow the day and the day to follow the night. This is an arrangement that's in Allah's control, that the people have no control over, and that they cannot make any changes in. So in this way, it becomes clear that our statement that Allah the Most High is one in creation, firstly, secondly, in His ownership, and thirdly, in His organization. This is general, and this is unrestricted, and there is nothing that is that falls out of these three categories, and there is nothing also that we can see that contradicts this principle whatsoever. So that's the end of the first of these three categories of Tawheed, of Allah's Lordship. So we'll move on now to the second, and that is the Tawheed of worship of Allah the Most High. And it can be looked at in two different ways, i.e. it can be looked at in the manner of the fact that Allah alone is worthy of worship, and that's from I suppose from the perspective of Allah, and then from the perspective of the worshippers, it's that the worshippers only worship Allah the Most High, and that's just a semantic difference, but essentially it's the fact that the individual worships Allah alone, and it's the concept that Allah is worshipped alone, but also added to this is that that the individual does not worship anything other than Allah or besides Allah the Most High. And again, irrespective of whether that's an angel, a prophet, one of the awliya. This is probably a new one on you, Tom. Awliya, no, sorry, it's AWLIYYAH, and these are the close people. You know, sometimes there are people who claim to be very religious and claim to be of a great station and rank, that the people, you know, they'll say to the people, worship me, or well, they won't say worship me, they'll say make supplication to me, or give me such and such a thing, or give me a pledge of allegiance, and now you do not have to, for example, pray your 5 prayers. Or they might say, for example, if you do this, then you'll be granted a child, or if you do this, you'll be given blessings in your wealth. So all of these things, because they ask you, or they ask their followers to glorify them in a way that only Allah should be glorified, this runs counter to this concept of making Allah the Most High one in worship. So irrespective whether the individual worships an angel or a prophet or a sheikh or their mother or their father or anything other than Allah, this is something that is prohibited. The slave and the worshipper only worships Allah alone and singles him out to the exclusion of everything else. And this is the root of worship of Allah the Most High. And this type of worship, and worship of Allah generally, is built upon two great pillars, and they are love and exalting Allah. And Allah the Most High describes the people of faith who came before in the chapter of the prophets. Indeed, they used to hasten towards doing good deeds and used to call upon us out of fear, but also out of desiring. So the love that they had resulted in this desire for Allah, and the glorification of Allah that they used to have resulted in this kind of reverential fear that they had of Allah the Most High. So because of this, because worship is of these two things, is of love and exalting Allah that leads in fear of Him, we see that worship is made of orders that are to be carried out and prohibitions that are to be abstained upon with a good intention. And we see that so when Allah the Most High orders with orders, these are things that make the individual hasten to Allah the Most High. So when there are orders in the book and the Sunnah, then these are things that the slave uses to encourage them to get close to Allah, especially when they see the reward that results in doing these actions. And as for the prohibitions, they are the things that that help an individual develop their sense of glorifying Allah the Most High, that results in a reverential fear of Him. But these are two wings. So as we saw in the example that came before, that the righteous people who came before us, they used to worship Allah the Most High upon these two principles, not just one. So out of having fear and love of Allah. So some of the early scholars said that indeed these are two wings of the bird, and the bird needs two wings, the two wings of the believer, really. But it's similar. It's making a similitude between the believer and the bird. So so having fear of Allah and also love of Him. So I think, I don't know, Tom, how you're doing. Maybe that might be a good place to stop, Abdul Hakim, or do you want me to carry on? I mean, that's probably about halfway into this introduction. And what we could do is carry on with it next week and give the Sheikh a week off. I don't know, Abdul Hakim, what do you think? Could carry on.
Inshallah. We'll finish off in the next couple of minutes, inshallah. If you can give just a ending to
Summary?
Yeah, like a summary of the topic, then inshallah, and we'll finish off with that.
Okay, Allah yubarak fik. So this is an introduction again to the science of the belief of the Muslim, and the belief of the Muslim is built upon the pillars of Iman, or the pillars of faith, and central to those pillars is the belief in Allah the Most High. So this is why the Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen, in his introduction to this text, the Aqidah, the belief of the people of Wasit, written by Ibn Taymiyyah, this is why Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen, he emphasizes belief in Allah the Most High. And he uses the belief of Allah the Most High and some of the concepts behind belief in Allah as the foundation. Because as we learn more about the divine decree, as we learn more about the angels, as we learn more about the messengers, as we learn more about the books and the other pillars of faith, we see that they all have a connection, and the last pillar being the final day and the establishment of the hour. They all have a strong link with our belief in Allah the Most High. So this is central to the belief of the Muslim, and it's central to the belief of the Muslim every day, because it gives life to our prayers, it gives life to our acts of remembrance, it gives life to our conduct, it guides our conduct, and it also forms a foundation for further study. So when we want to look into matters of belief, those matters of belief are often connected to these core principles that we're taking. And the core principles that we've taken this week have been the fact that the religion of Allah, the Most High, and the belief of the messengers is one, and that there's a central concept that runs through the texts of the book and the Sunnah, and that's the oneness of Allah, the Most High, and that's a concept in Arabic called Tawheed, or making Allah one, Tawheed. And this Tawheed is split into three categories. The first, the category of Allah's Lordship, and we've said that that consists of three things: to single Allah, the Most High, out in His creation, or in His essence of being a creator, in ownership, and in organizing. And then the second category is the category of the worship of Allah, and the fact that we worship Allah alone, and the slave, the worshipper's worship is directed towards Him and Him alone. So by Allah's will, next week we'll have a look at a couple of concepts as relates to worship of Allah, and we'll go on to the final category of Tawheed, or making Allah one, and that is His oneness in His beautiful names and His lofty attributes. I ask Allah the Most High to accept this from us, and I ask Him to give our Shaykh Muhammad al-Maliki a swift and complete and pure convalescence from his illness, and I ask Him to reward our brother Abdul Hakim and guide our beloved Tom to that which is best for him in this world and the next. And may Allah shower peace and salutations upon the Prophet Muhammad and upon his family and companions to the day of resurrection.
Jazakallah khair, Akil. Jazakallah khair, Tom. And like you said, may Allah give our Sheikh Shifa and a speedy recovery, inshallah. We'll continue, inshallah, next week, the same time, 7 till 8, at Islam for Deaf website, islamfordeaf.co.uk, or the YouTube channel. You can watch it live on either one of them, inshallah. Just a quick reminder that we will be doing the Taraweeh for Deaf at Milton Keynes Islamic Center. Milton Keynes Islamic Center. This year, the Taraweeh of Deaf, the Taraweeh for Ramadan, the whole of Ramadan, inshallah, will be at Milton Keynes Masjid, and you can get more information and support it on the website. We also will be live streaming it as well, so people can watch it live and support it as well, inshallah. Jazakallah, and we'll see you next week, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.